Hello and welcome. Today we've got a certain gentleman in the studio who has over 16 years of experience in the telecom industry. He's been a part of Nokia, Siemens, Ericsson, KPN International Consulting, Romeware. He goes by the name Rajesh Razdan, who is the CEO and founder of mCarbon Tech Innovation. Rajesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
First up, I want to understand from you. You've been in the industry for a long time. So how is the Indian telecom sector, the mobile VAS industry, this year compared to last year?
If you see last 3-4 years, mobile VAS traditionally in India was more to do with mobile entertainment, content being accumulated and being actually funneled through telecom operators as a via media. But all of that has changed because of smartphones, because of internet getting proliferated, because of the over-the-top players. So when content became aplenty, the dependence on telcos obviously reduced because content was not being charged at any premium, it was available. So what you would essentially do is that you would just consume the content and not worry about the premium or the either the premium nature of the content or the availability of the content. You're saying that okay, at any whim and fancy I should get the content right at my doorstep at my price point. I shouldn't be forced to consume content. I should be willing to consume it at whatever my price. I think the whole definition of VAS changed from push to pull.
Correct. And in all of this, you mentioned the one thing which primarily comes out is a lot of data which is getting churned out, right? A lot of customer data which gets churned out. So I'll come to what your organization specifically does. Before that, how do you think is big data and these advanced analytics driving the telecom sector?
See, big data, it's a highly abused word. It's been used everywhere. The fundamental shift is again saying that there is data and there has been a data always. It's just that relevancy of data is very important. As I said, structured and unstructured. So point being that even in structured, what am I doing with the data is the more important. I always had the data. Please tell me when I did not have the data. I always had the data. Now whether you call it structured or unstructured, now I am trying to connect the dots with that data points and saying that what is relevant. I think the point is what is relevant, how do I connect it, and I connect it in real time. I think that's the difference, and that is where, because we all live in real time basis. As a telecom service provider, I have the biggest responsibility and actually the power both to come and attempt that gap, wherein a Google or a Facebook would not do that. It's too far and wide, and I as a user sometimes also get very jittery about letting my personal life out there, and I don't want them to know everything about me. I want to be left alone. So I think that's the difference where telco service providers are saying that, hey, we know enough about your consumption patterns, and these are the 4 places where we can intervene, and that is where the big data comes in, and we help you sort of structure that big data into the consumption patterns of your likes and dislikes.
So how is your organization tapping into these opportunities in that case?
So as mCarbon, we've been very, very careful about the fact that what are the opportunities that we go and tell a telco that here are the 4 points, 5 different points. We have access to a whole lot of data that we produce from our platforms and services, which are again in their premises. So what we see there is a huge opportunity where we are connecting different disparate systems. Telcos have grown big in the last 5-7 years from 20-30 million categories to almost like 200 plus million. So, and there are different buckets in that 200 million, and we're saying that India is a large market. Between that 200 million, there are different target groups. There are people who are at as low as $3 to $4 ARPU to as high as a postpaid ARPU could be as high as $50, for example, in certain cases. So there are different buckets. So there are almost like 50 to 100 buckets where we can possibly intervene by looking at data elements, by looking at different ways of inefficiencies in the system, and say that, and go back to our customers saying that these are the 10 different ways we can attempt to give the same service much better. So I think those are the models that mCarbon is very, very carefully planning and has been doing very well since the time we pivoted into this whole usage and revenue enhancement play.
I was reading about your competition a little bit. Not that you have a huge set of competition, but your competition like Amdocs works with a lot of cloud products recently. Any such initiatives from your side? Because you're a solution provider at the end of the day.
So cloud, we haven't been talking about cloud per se, but we were the first, for example, in the world, I would say, I can claim that, to launch something called as USSD, on the cloud about 3.5 years back on Amazon Web Services. So in fact, well, I can say it very safely that day before we launched, we went live in Maldives in a large telco group called Ooredoo, again on cloud. So it's done completely out of private cloud or a public cloud, both. We support all of that. So we are as cloud centric as anybody else, but most of the preference for the telcos is to do it in their data centers.
Just to go a little away from what we were talking right now, you are a telecom solution provider, and we did mention TRI, and TRI has been doing a lot of things on net neutrality, which the regular telecom guys do not like it. What is your whole take on things like Facebook trying to bring like free basics and all? Because a lot of data is involved, as user data is involved, and what is your comment on TRI's recommendations on net neutrality?
I would like to answer you first as a consumer. I would first want to see that the so-called net is available to everybody first. Let's talk about basics. Facebook talked about free Facebook basics. My question is, what is really Facebook? I'm talking about basics. Is the pipe laid for everybody? Is the basic pipe laid out? Can every nook and corner of this country claim that he or she has connectivity to just do about anything? Forget about Zuckerberg saying anything or somebody else saying anything else. I'm saying, does that particular person has the basic connectivity in place or not? Because if that is not there, then the second question is whether it is ethical or not to put barricades there or not. On that question, my first objective to net neutrality is let there be connectivity first, which is my responsibility as a private service provider or a private company as well as government to come together and at least give that as a basic. I think once we have basics in place, where everybody is connected on a level playing field, second question comes that, now I have basics covered. Now can I have a differentiated handling? It's a phase 2. So it's a two-pronged answer to that. So first is the basics need to be covered. Till that basics are covered, I don't see a reason why there should be any differentiation. Once the basics are covered, fair, have a differentiation. So I think rather than content being a differentiator that what you should watch and what you should not, and it should be prerogative of any large company to decide what I should do, I should first be given the complete platform and then have a different tariff plans or different, it's like an itemized menu. You eat whatever you want depending on my business rules or my business plans or whatever. But at that same time, do we have the wherewithal to finally distinguish? Let's say if I'm a company which is, the business model is only having videos streamed, fair business model like a Netflix model, right? For that I need a dedicated pipe at a certain bit rate. If I don't have it, my business model will collapse. Now that does not mean that my fundamental, I should change my business model just because the country thinks it should be neutral. No, I'm doing a very specific business model. That's my business model. But that also means that the level playing field, or at least the basic connectivity, should be there for everybody. So that's the take on, both as a consumer and as a provider on net neutrality. This is how I feel. We are still a little far off to be, funding this debate of should we go there or not. It's just a debate.